Hello and welcome to another wonderful episode of Up and In. I am, as always, Alex I. Black Elmore. Thank you for joining us on this wonderful Sunday evening. And joining me, as always, is my main man, Chris Hackney. Hack, how has your week been, my friend?
Good weekend, decent weather out here. Today was a beautiful day. Got to watch some Little League All Star baseball. So good weekend.
Yeah, I'd say so. And of course, a lot of great baseball going on this weekend as well. Friday really kicked it off with Paul Skeens on the mound early Friday morning for us West Coasters, early afternoon for everybody else in the country. That started off the weekend fantastic, followed by another great pitching matchup between Pittsburgh and Chicago with Falters and Shota Imanaga absolutely going crazy, both going toe to toe, not allowing a run in their showings. Great pitching this weekend. Great matchups. Did you get a chance to catch any matchups this weekend, and which one really stood out to you?
Well, I didn't get to watch the skiing start. I was following along with my phone. You know my personal bias in that one. So a no hitter going for, I believe it was 6, 7 innings. So that was an impressive second start. He went deeper into the game, so he answered some of them questions that I know you had last week. So
That's
that's
true.
impressive. And the hot streak that Igama's on, it's you keep waiting to see the bad start. And him and Suarez just keep on seeming to go start for start to see which one's going to blink first and have that bad start.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. We have a lot to talk about this episode, and we'll actually talk about Paul Skeens here in a little bit. I'll give a little more rundown as far as what I saw this week when when he pitched against the Cubs for the second time in as many starts. But we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna jump right in. Let me get up my. We're gonna go over the standings first and foremost. We can talk about some division leaders here. Here we go. We got the leaders for the West, Central, and East divisions. Seattle Mariners still holding on strong in the West Division. Cleveland and the Yankees, none of those spots have changed. Then we got the Dodgers, Brewers, and Phillies on the other side. Not much has really changed in the last few weeks. Hack, who are any of these teams really kind of standing out to you, or is this kind of what we're going to see for the next foreseeable future?
I think I'm going to talk about the East. I think the Phillies and the Yankees both teams have been on a tear now for more than a week. It hasn't been a 1 week or a 2 week tear. These teams are hitting their strides and both doing it with major parts of their future in on the DL. So I think I look forward to Cole coming back and Turner coming back and to see if these teams can expand leads. They both have worthy contenders at the 2 seed sitting behind them. So I like that division, both divisions, both races.
Yeah, I mean the Yankees and the Orioles did trade seats at the head of the East table earlier in the week, with the Yankees obviously battling back, on a fantastic run right now. Juan Soto seems like he cannot get out at the plate. Aaron Judge home run numbers finally really picking up pace just towards the top of the leaderboard, which we're going to go over next. I mean, Juan Carlos Stanton hitting the ball harder than anybody in the league. Obviously, Shohei is up there, but he hit the ball 119.6 miles per hour off the bat the other day. I think the ball left the park in like 2.5 seconds. It was nuts. The Yankees are really hitting on all cylinders, and all of this division leaders without their ace Garrett Cole on the hill or in the rotation all right now, at least until mid-June. So that's something great to talk about. The Mariners, they've actually been outscored by their opponents this season by 1 run, and they're still finding ways to win and lead in the West. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts that are going on. You know, the Twins, they were getting some ahead of steam heading into Central, but then they've kind of died down a little bit. We'll talk about them later in the episode. A lot to go over. We're going to keep this show moving. Heck, anything else to say about the division leaders before we talk about some statistical leaders this week?
No, I think you did a good job of summing up things. I'm intrigued to watch Seattle and Milwaukee in the next couple weeks because I think the teams behind them are coming strong and maybe a little bit better on paper. Where they still you got to prove it on the field, but on paper, I think the teams chasing those two leaders are a little stronger and in a little bit better position to add talent to make the push.
Yeah, absolutely. Say that I cannot wait until the bulk of the trades start happening, and we really see some of these teams at the top of the divisions make some huge moves. Once those moves start happening, we'll obviously have it all here, so we can talk about the re- repercussions and all that. Obviously, the Padres got things started last week, adding to their lineup, stealing Luis Arias from the Marlins. We're going to jump on over to some statistical categories today. Sorry, I'm having trouble talking today. Home runs. Gunnar Henderson just took over the lead this week. Aaron Judge coming in strong. Obviously, Stephen Kwan, he's out right now for the Cleveland Guardians. We'll talk about him in our next segment when we go over some injuries. Anybody on this list kind of really standing out to you as a surprise? I mean, I know early in the season, but there's some names up here that I wasn't expecting to see so far.
I think obviously the big one is Gunnar Henderson at the top of the home run board. I don't think any of us saw this power step from him this year. I think I was expecting Rashman actually to make the offensive jump, and Henderson looks, you can't argue with what he's done offensively this year. And I think for as bad as the Astros have done this year, Kyle Tucker is putting together, for all the struggles they've had, he has not struggled this year. And he's in a contract year, so he's picking a heck of a year to show out.
No, absolutely. Actually, it's really funny how you talk about the Astros, who again is a team that's on a hot streak right now. I mean, if you talk just alone on team statistics, Astros actually lead the league right now in team batting average, which as much as they have struggled so far this season, that's something that's kind of crazy to think about. They're leading in average, but they're only third in their division right now. So maybe that explains why they're getting hot all of a sudden. I think for me, the biggest surprise on this list has got to be Alec Boehm of the Phillies, leading the way in RBIs. Obviously, he had great playoff run last season, and we really kind of saw him blossom a little bit. But I didn't expect to see him carry it over so early in the season and kind of leading the league in RBIs. As a Phillies fan, are you surprised to see this kind of production from him, or is this something you guys all knew was going to happen?
I mean, I'm shocked that he's leading the league. I'm not going to say that I had him pegged to be the league leader, but last year he drove in over 100 RBIs. I think the big difference is the top of this lineup has been on base for him in the 4-hole. He's provided protection for Bryce, and Harper is not. He's having a solid year, but he still is not. His power numbers aren't there yet, so he's getting on base, and Boehm is reaping the benefits of Harper moving the guys into scoring position, and he's done his job extremely well so far. Him and Stott have both blossomed into good young hitters.
Yeah, I think it's one thing that's really standing out to me is for the Phillies in particular is the bottom of their lineup is really coming through. Where typically that's where teams see the struggles and they see their numbers decline. The top of the order is still kind of yet to kind of really sink it all together, especially with Trey Turner out. But that bottom of the order is really kind of pushing things through. Bryce Harper's coming up with timely hits. Schwarber, like I said, I don't think he's starting off as hot as he has in past seasons from that leadoff spot. But obviously, they're the best team in baseball right now. So why change it if it's working, right? All right.
Yeah,
Then,
I mean,
of course, we're looking over.
as a Philly fan,
No, Hack. Say it.
as
Say
a
it.
Phillies fan, we're used to the Schwarber cold starts. Soon it'll be June. In 2 weeks, if Schwarber's struggling, that's when Phillies.
The bear's waking up, stretching those arms. He's getting ready to wake up from hibernation and start eating, huh? All right. Well, I'm obviously, like I said, when the weather picks up, that's when the Phillies have gotten hot over the last few seasons, which is why I'm curious what's going to happen this summer as the weather heats up. Because if had such a hot start to the beginning of the year, where they're normally so cold, just like the weather. So I'm excited to see what kind of what the next level for them is coming up in the season. But we're gonna jump over to the pitching stats. Obviously, my main man Shota Imanaga leading the way in ERA had another fantastic five inning outing this last week against 6 innings against the Pirates. He's just impressive, man. Every time he goes out there, I'm waiting for him to get tagged out, but he's still finding ways to get teams, out. Like I said, he's pitching. The way he pitches is he works the corners. He gets high in the pitch count, which is why he doesn't go deep into games. I feel like that is something he could work on a little bit because obviously, come playoff time, once he hits that 120 pitch mark, which I think is where his ceiling will be in the playoffs, I want him in the 9th inning with those numbers, not in the 7th. Anything else kind of really standing out with you, or as far as pitchers go?
Jack Flaherty. I think that the two of the three names leading in the K's department, most people would have bet on a Glass now and a Wheeler, but Flaherty's rejuvenated his arm in Detroit. The wins aren't there because they are a struggling team, and there's more than just the pitching to win. But at the start of his season, he might have pitched himself to a contender at the trade deadline.
Well, I know that Detroit fans are hoping to keep him around, but I mean, obviously with the way their season's going, that definitely is a possibility. We're going to kind of update this every week, not necessarily going over the same statistical categories. Next week, we might mix it up with, kind of give some love to relief pitchers and go over whip and Ks, or sorry, whip and saves. Also change up to, how many hits, runs above average, things like that. So we're kind of going to mix up the stats every week, but we're going to keep this ball rolling here. And next up, we're going to kind of talk about some news that struck earlier in the week. And that's Mr. Ronel Blanco of the Houston Astros. He's been suspended 10 games for a sticky substance that was found on his glove during the fourth inning of his last outing. Hack, tell me your opinion on this. What do you think is going on here?
I mean, I've been having this talk with just friends throughout the course of the week. I think, in a way, this is a generational thing. Like, I'm older. I'm older than you. I grew up. My dad told me about pitchers using sandpaper and batters cutting their bats open and stuffing it full of Super Balls and the George Brett Pine Tar game. So, like, I know it's technically cheating, but in baseball is the one sport where cheating has almost always been unspokenly allowed. He got caught, so he deserves the suspension, but I'm not willing to drag this guy over coals for something that Hall of Famers have admitted to doing differently than a sticky substance, but they've been doing this since the inception of baseball. It's part of the game. It's just what you always look for those little advantages, especially pitchers.
No, you're right. I mean, I do remember, as a kid, you would get your game ball, if you were the home team, ready to go out there, and I would always throw my ball to the catcher, and my catcher Spencer, he would always gnaw on it a little bit, get the seams up a little bit, so my slider would slide a little bit more, my curveball would curve a little bit more, I'd get better grip on the seams. So I get it. Little tiny things I get have always been part of the game. For me, the question is, does this put his no-hitter from earlier in the season in question? I mean, is this something that now people are going to think that that's what he did for that game? Or is this going to be something that is kind of a one-off situation, maybe it was a misunderstanding? Or is this going to be something that's kind of brought up consistently over his next starts once he gets back from suspension?
I think that is all based on his next starts. If he comes back and because obviously now you're under a microscope, so I would hope that going forward as fans, we could agree he's not going to have that sticky substance in his glove because he's going to be doubly checked. So if he comes back mowing down hitters and continues his tear, I think you can have the question, you're entitled to that. But if he continues his success, it's hard to hang his success on the sticky substance. That being said, he comes back in his first 5 starts, he gets lit up. It's going to put, it's human nature to put that in doubt.
No, and that makes total sense to me. For me, it's what's up. What's going on in Houston? If he in fact was cheating and trying to get an edge here, what is it about the culture in Houston where the last major cheating scandal was obviously about them winning the World Series, stealing signs, beating on trash cans, all that mumbo jumbo, and now of course the next kind of scandal, I say, because it's not really a scandal. It's a pitcher being a pitcher. But the next big issue is again with the Houston Astros organization. Is this just a coincidence that it's with the Houston Astros, or is this a cultural thing, a team culture?
I think on this one, the banging on buckets, the signs, stealing, controversy, I think that was an organizational thing. I think once you came into the organization, you were told this is the Astro way, and this is what we do. And again, that's something I stand on a different side of the fence on. I think they went a little far with it, but I mean, people have stole signs forever. They just took it to a too high of a tech level. But this is more of an individual. My question more is, why do the pitchers do it when every inning your glove's getting checked? So I would be more intrigued on that deep dive with Blanco. Like, he says he didn't even know the rule that you couldn't have it on your 9 throwing arm. So I don't know if this was something where a rule misinterpretation, because I'm sure these players don't know every rule. Or were you really trying it, and are you that bad at hiding it? Because you're getting checked at the end of every inning.
Yeah, that's the one thing that kind of makes me think like maybe this wasn't an intentional act. Is like the hands get checked every inning, but the glove only gets checked the first, fourth, and the seventh, I believe, or during a pitcher change. But the first and the fourth, that's the only time that those gloves actually get checked. So in the first inning check, he passed no problems. The fourth inning check is when he was like, the guy said it was the stickiest substance I had ever felt since we started cracking down. that's just a funny quote. The stickiest substance he'd ever felt on a mitt. But obviously, I think we will have more on this as the story kind of progresses. I'm sure more will come out. Whether it's a miscommunication or if his if just like Hack said, if his numbers start to slide on this when he does come back from suspension, that leaves more questions of maybe he has been cheating. If he keeps tearing guys up and he keeps throwing some great ball for the Astros, nobody's going to question him any further. So I think you're absolutely right about that. Hack, anything to say else about Ronel Blanco before we kind of move on?
I hate the quote from the umpire. Like, I think that quote was, I understand what you were trying to do. I just think it was unprofessional. They send it to a lab to get tested. So if Major League Baseball wants to say what this extremely sticky substance is, feel free. But for an umpire to be doing this when you can barely call it, you're not the guy that I want to hear dictating. You kick them out, send it, and go on. I think the a little bit. I'd like a more professional quote out of him in that instant there.
You know what? You're right. I'm going to write a letter right now. We're taking up with the commissioner next week.
The most substance I've ever.
Yeah, that was, and that's what had me click on it, because I was like, well, what was this? Was it like super glue? Did he have like Elmer's glue, like put it on his glove right there and put it on the ball? Like, I wanted to see what this stuff was. I guess Ronel Blanco says it was pine tar. I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, MLB has not announced anything as far as what the substance was. Hopefully, we'll find out soon, and then we'll obviously update you guys next episode. We're gonna keep this ball rolling. Hack, I'm gonna let you start this one off, just because you're such a Paul Skeens lover. You love this guy on the mound. You were happy. You were preaching for him to come to the majors. He hit the Chicago Cubs for 6 innings on Friday. I know you didn't get a chance to see it with your own eyes. I luckily did. But like, for a team to see a pitcher twice in a week and them to get blown out even worse than they did the first time, that's unheard of. Like, they had a full game of looking at his pitches and his stuff and what he was throwing, and they could not touch him. I mean, he struck out the first 7 batters in a row. His over-under for strikeouts in the game, mind you, was 6.5. He blew that out of the water in the first 7 hitters. I mean, all right, Hack. I mean, what do you have to say about this?
I mean, I'm a little bit older. I'm going to data here. I don't know if all of our watchers, listeners, remember Kerry Wood from the Cubs, but this is reminiscent to me when Kerry Wood came up. I hope he has a better career, longevity-wise, than Kerry Wood. Kerry Wood was a big, hard-throwing righty that mowed down hitters, and that's what this guy is. He throws hard. As you said, this was the Cubs' second time seeing him in under a week. They couldn't hit him. Post-game, he does the interview where they say, hitters are getting tape, and they're going to get a chance to see tape of you and adjust. And his response is good luck. It's what I said last week. He had the perfect debut. This is the perfect follow-up to his debut. And It's exciting for baseball. It's a Friday, and I'm working on a Friday, and I'm more tuned into my phone than I am on doing my work at the time because he stops my day for baseball. And that's not a Philly. I'm not a huge Pittsburgh Pirate fan, but this guy is just stops. It's been amazing. Hopefully the ride continues, for him. But he started out well spoken. I can't say enough good things about the first two starts of this guy.
And of course, you have him on your fantasy team, so what's not to love there, right? You weren't going to
I did
mention that,
pick
were
him
you?
up.
I should have. But no, honestly, he pitched fantastic. I mean, he no hit the Cubs for 6 innings, 11 strikeouts, looking absolutely dominant. Cubs hitters looking completely off balance. The movement on his pitches is honestly pretty damn incredible. I will definitely be setting my VCR to every time he pitches. Obviously, for those of you who don't know what a VCR is, look it up. We're going to keep this ball rolling. Paul Skeens, like I said, we're probably going to talk about him for the foreseeable future just because he's making such a huge impact on the game. And honestly, what he's doing is just that damn impressive. It's worth talking about. And we're going to keep this, like I said, we're going to keep this ball rolling. Next up, we're going to talk about a couple injuries that have plagued the field. Last week, I brought to your attention that Jung Ho Lee had a shoulder separation. He was going to be added to the 10-day IL. Turns out he's actually going to have surgery. He is done for the season. The Korean rookie having a fantastic season with the Giants to start off the year. Missing time is horrible for the fans and for the team. Hack, what are your kind of opinion? Obviously, the Giants aren't playing too well right now, losing their leadoff hitter this early in the season. That really is a struggle. Do you think they can kind of find a way back into the season? Snell out, Hickey's out.
And then when Snell comes back, which it looks like he's closer to returning, we're going to talk about him in a little bit. It'll help. I think the Giants' best years, and you can speak more to this than I can, are when their team is based around pitching. Even when they won the World Series, they're not the type of team that puts up 9 runs a game. They're not the Dodgers. That's not their way of playing baseball. It's to win 3-1 games, 3-2. They're one of the few teams that still actually believe in a small ballish kind of mentality in that big stadium. So to their small ball offense, I think this is a big loss. He's the fastest guy on their team. I think he was their biggest stolen base threat. So hopefully the Giants maybe can try to find a close to a replacement in the trade deadline. That's silver lining, is it happened early enough that you can address it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And they did end up calling up Luis Matos from the minors, and we're actually going to talk about him later on in this episode. But he has been filling in quite nicely, at least this week he has been. Anyway, it's funny that you mentioned Blake Snell because he is also on this list of people I want to talk about. He had another outing, another rehab start, going 5 innings of no-hit ball, which brings his total to 9 innings of no-hit ball so far in his rehab starts. Looking like Blake Snell is ready and primed to come back. I think he's going to have one more rehab start before he makes his way back up to the Giants. So that's exciting. Logan Webb, he's already gone on the record saying that he needs to pitch better, and he showed that in his last outing, beating the Rockies. Now, Blake Snell continues this momentum and these type of numbers coming back to the Giants starting rotation. This should be a formidable rotation to have to deal with every single week. Like I said, Blake Snell coming back is good for baseball. Hack, do you have any opinions on Snell coming back? Obviously, 9 innings of no-hit ball, and whether it's in the minors or not, that's still impressive.
Yeah, I mean, since I didn't say that Skeens was on my fantasy team, Snell is on my IL right now. So I believe he's going to come back and be Blake Snell. It's good for the Giants. The leaders in the National League are pulling away, and that first wild card, if you look at the way the divisions are, the Braves would be the first wild card. That spot's going to be the Braves or Phillies. Everything else is pretty open. The rest of the teams are as bad as some teams have done, that nobody has stepped into that next 2 wild card spots. So Giants just need to get on a hot streak here, and I think Snell helps them get there.
Yeah, I mean, Giants are notoriously a second half team. Typically, after the All Star break, they get hot and they stay hot, making that push for that final push for the playoffs. So I hope you're right. Blake Snell comes back and is able to contribute the way that we paid him to contribute. Um, Obviously, the White Sox, we're obviously going to keep moving. The White Sox have not had a lot to be excited about this season. They did have a brief win streak, and they are 6-4 in their last 10. But some more good news for White Sox fans is Luis Roberts Jr.'s timetable has been moved up, and they have updated it to hopefully he'll be having an early June return, which the White Sox offense desperately needs. A shot of something because they have been outscored by 99 runs this season, and they need something to kind of give them that spark to kind of give their fans something to be excited about, or at least give them something of value at the trade deadline. What do you think, Hack? Is Luis Roberts Jr. coming back for the team, for the fans, or just to be traded?
I think if they're smart, just to be traded, he's he is the White Sox Mike Trout. He can't stay healthy for a year, and similar to Trout, the offense is basically Robert. And when another off-injured player, Eloy Jimenez, is in the lineup, you have a little protection, but he's hurt just as often as Robert is. And the White Sox aren't built to have their star be hurt. When he's hurt, they are. I used to say they would be akin to the A's, but now they're not. They're worse than the A's. You're like the Marlins, and that's not a team you want to be compared to. I still think Robert has a huge trade value to a contender. So get some prospects back and try to reload for, let's say, 2-3 years, because you're in a big market. You can spend the money, but this mix that you have is not the right mix. You need to cut bait and try something different.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, obviously the fans want him to return because he is there. He is what puts the butts in the seats. But I do think that he's probably going to be one of the uh, higher priced pieces at the trade deadline for somebody out there. So it'll be exciting to talk about that when that time comes. Another kind of injury update. Obviously, he's been out since April for a little bit now, but Stephen Kwan, left hamstring, will begin his rehab assignment in 7 to 10 days. He has been doing batting practice as well as running, and he has felt no tension, no tightness, or no setbacks. So rehab assignment in 7 to 10 days. Hopefully, he'll be back up with the big team. Hopefully by mid-June, early June mid-June at the latest. But I say he's leading the league in batting average right now. The Guardians, even with him not in the lineup, are still able to maintain first place in the Central. With the Royals kind of hot at their heels, but the Twins are kind of falling off. Stephen Kwan coming back has only got to boost that Guardians offense, right, Hack?
Yeah, I mean they miss him. Professional hitter, very similar. Basically, they're Luis Ariza. He doesn't hit for power, but he's always on base. He's on base for Ramirez, so they'll look forward to adding him back to the top of their lineup. And he's also not that bad of a defensive outfielder, so I think he'll plug right back in, and that's a big gain for them, especially trying to fight off the Twins and the Royals.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, that leadoff hitter is so key to your success. I mean, we talk about leadoff hitters constantly. Obviously, the loss of Jung Ho Lee, you got Mookie Betts, Kyle Schwarber, like all these guys we talk about on an episode basis because of how important they are to the team. Well, he's just as important to them. So him coming back is obviously going to be great for the Guardians, and I think is what's going to ultimately kind of carry them over the top in that division with the Royals getting that wild card spot. But again, we're too early to talk about that. One more real kind of injury to talk about, and that's going to be Nick Lodolo. He's one of my favorite pitchers on the Reds staff. Hack, you are a huge fan of the Reds. As far as their hopes are this season, they're only losing Nick Lodolo for 15 days on the IL. Do you think they're going to kind of be able to weather the storm? They're kind of on a downward slide right now. Do you think he'll come back and kind of be able to produce like he has been all season and kind of turn that team around?
Yeah, I think it's a hiccup. They definitely wanted him to stay healthy, especially after he came off the IL just, I want to say, like 3 weeks ago. So he has going back on. He pitched the start before he got pulled. He pitched with the injury, so he said he was going to try to fight through it, and he didn't. He wasn't able to, so they might have dodged a bullet with only the 15-day DL. It's never, very rarely do you hear about a pitcher pitching through an injury and it end up being a good thing. But it's the sounds to minimize the damage, and hopefully he's back in the 15 days, ready to go. The Reds need him if they're gonna push in that division, because Milwaukee and Chicago, they're moving, and you got to be able to stay with them.
No, you're absolutely right about that. So they have fallen actually to last place in the division, behind the Cardinals, Pirates, and then we got the Cubs, and then of course the Brewers at the top. But you're right about that. The Reds started off hot. Ellie De La Cruz is still doing his thing, trying to get the offense going, but losing Nick Lodolo is definitely not a piece you want to lose, especially heading into the meatier schedule. Next up, though, Hack, obviously earlier in the season, we went over our playoff brackets. What I want to talk about now, though, is I want to talk about at this point in the season, who are your two American League favorites for the World Series? Right? I don't want to make you narrow it down to one. We had you send me your list, and these two teams right here are who you have as your front runners for the World Series. Tell me a little bit.
Well, my first team is going to be the Yankees. Has been incredible. I mean, you couldn't have asked for more through a free agent. He's led the Yankees in most offensive categories other than home runs, which Aaron Judge just took that lead. Their pitching staff is keeping them in it. Carlos Rodon has bounced back. I know history isn't saying he's great, but this season he's regained his form. Nestor Cortez is throwing good, solid innings, and they're going to get Garrett Cole back. And then that pitching staff is going to be scary again. They're built for the postseason with Clay Holmes locking down that bullpen. It's this version of the Yankees looks like the evil empire, and the evil empire trade deadlines. We're talking about, is Chicago White Sox going to be sellers? Imagine throwing Robert into that lineup. And the Yankees have the money to do it. And my number two team is the team that I had in the beginning of the year to go into the World Series, and they're starting to peak again. The Houston Astros. Right now, they're winning games again. They're starting to look like the Houston Astros. We talked about the suspension to Blanco. That's going to set their pitching staff back a little bit. And that's where they need to make a move, I believe, at the trade deadline to shore up their fifth starter, or in the playoffs, the guy that will be the emergency third starter, fourth starter after Verlander, Javier, and Farmer Val Velez. Blanco was looking to be that guy, but we'll have to see how he comes back after this suspension and this debacle. But they've done this with Alvarez, Bregman, and Diaz cold. If there's three hitters heat up to join Altuve, Tucker, and Pena, the offense is going to look scary again. And I think when it's all said and done, these are now the two teams that are going to be battling it out.
Yeah, I mean, as crazy as it is to say, Houston, as bad as they started, they're only 5 games under 500, and they're only 4 games back from for the division lead, and we're only 47 games in. They're 8-2 in their last 10. I mean, the Astros are heating up, and the Mariners and the Rangers did not do what they needed to do to distance themselves from the Astros. And now that they've kind of woken up a little bit, like I said, old guys take a little bit to wake up. But now that they're there, now that their legs are under them, it's going to be scary to see what the Astros can do. So if you haven't put any prop bets on the season yet, now would be the time to maybe place them on them winning the West. I have 2 teams, one of them very similar to you, Hack, but another team very different. honestly, I think that for the American League World Series representation, it literally goes through the AL East, between the Orioles and the Yankees. Um, so like I said, the Orioles, they got a taste of the playoffs last year, and so they got a young core, and they're hungry. Um, and they lead the league in home runs. Gunnar Henderson is the league leader in home runs. I mean, the power that this team is generating, the amount of saves getting on the back end. I mean, the bullpen is holding leads. I mean, this team is young and youthful, but they're playing like old vets. I mean, they're playing smart. They're playing good baseball right now, and they're really fun to watch. Every single time I turn on MLB TV, I'm looking to see if the Orioles are playing or looking for their highlights. And then, of course, like you just said, we got the Yankees. They're absolutely destroying offensively. They're fifth in average, first in home and total team home runs. And then we haven't even talked about their starting rotation or their bullpen. They're further as a team, they're first in ERA, past the Red Sox for that team ERA lead, and they are first overall in saves, which means they're not blowing the leads once they get them late in the games, which is something they had a problem with last year. So the Yankees are scary, man. And like I said, if what you say is, I grew up when, Jeter was on the Yankees and Nomar Garciaparra was on the Red Sox and the Manny and David Ortiz and we had Aaron Boone. Was it a home run? Like, I remember the days where those teams would face off and how good the Yankees were then. And this team, just like you said, brings me back to the late 90s, early 2000s team and like what this team is capable of doing. So yes, these are my two front-running favorites for the American League: the Orioles, and we got the Yankees. Um, but I really like your other team as well, Hack. Like I said, the Orioles. Like I said, I've had my eye on them all season. The Astros were my early season pick for the World Series representative, but after seeing with my eyes, these two teams are really hot right now. And the Orioles, I think, as young as they are and having some taste of playoff experience last year, this will be the year for them. But Hack, anything else? Anything you want to say about the Orioles or the Yankees before we bounce over to your National League list?
The Orioles would be the team. I think it's a 3-team race in the AL. I mean, it might be Texas if they heat up, the pitching gets healthy, but I think the Orioles are real good. I hope they learned in Philadelphia last year about Craig Kimbrell. And I don't want to wish that bad on that man, but last year he started just how he is for them this year, and his arm tired out after the All-Star break. He started out real hot in their bullpen. I hope the Orioles add an arm at the trade deadline, a bullpen arm, to just shore up their bullpen, and I'll like them even more in the AL.
No, you're absolutely right. Like I said, there was someone talking about they might be like in talks, or not in talks, but like they may be on the market for Mason Miller from the A's come the trade deadline time. Could you imagine, the starting rotation of the Orioles with Mason Miller on the back end throwing 104 miles an hour to close out games? I mean, that'd be nightmare. That'd be scary in the playoffs for sure. But Hack, let's jump over to your National League list. Let's take a look at who you got favorited in the National League. I'm guaranteeing there's probably a team from the Philadelphia area on there. Oh, look, there is. Lo and behold. Tell me about your two front-running favorites for the National League.
No way. My number one team is the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm not going to spend. I feel like I talked about them every show, so all the listeners know I'm nothing but stay hot. We need to see what happens how long they can stay hot. The way it's going, it's healthy. So I'm going to move on to the other team, which it might surprise some folks, but the Chicago Cubs. Well, I didn't say it when we were going over the league leaders because I wanted to save it for this segment, but all the ERA leaders come from these two teams. The top three. The Cubs are the one team in baseball that can look at the Phillies rotation and say, we've done everything you've done, because their team ERA has been ridiculous. Offensively, they need to add a bat. I feel like I've said that about a couple teams, but the Cubs, especially with Horner going down, he's not on the IL, but he's just the last 5 games, I believe. So they need to make a decision on is he going to the IL or what's wrong with him, because they've also played that pretty close to their vest on the injury with him. But Justin Steele came back. Their pitching's healthy now. They lost. I butcher their reliever's name, so I'm just gonna call him Double A. They lost Double A into the IL. But Hector came from Houston.
Double A to the IL.
Neris has come from Houston and locked down that closer role. So I think the Cubs are a team, if they make the right moves at the deadline, they're right there, because this pitching staff is dangerous. And I don't think anybody wants to face Igmaga, Steele, and the way he's pitching now, with Assad sitting there as the long reliever. That's rough to get through in a 3-game, 5-game, 7-game series.
Yeah, and not to mention Chicago in October with the cold weather and the fans, and it's almost as much of a game changer as playing in Philadelphia, if we're being honest with each other. I mean, that's how much of a game changer playing in Chicago in the playoffs is. So you're damn right about that. But I actually really like your list. Like I said, I mean, the Cubs are, if you had to pick any of the central teams from either side, I think the Cubs would definitely be the team that I would put my hat behind as well. Obviously, I'm a huge Imanaga fan, a huge Cody Bellinger fan. And also, it feels good when the Cubs are good. You know, like whether you admit it or not, it's like a heartwarming story. Chicago is one of my favorite teams. It's really one of America's teams, I feel like. But whatever. I'm done talking about the Cubs. I'm gonna talk about my list. And my list doesn't include either of these two teams, and I'm proud of it. And here, guess what? I'm not even gonna throw in the Giants as a homer. I'm not gonna throw the Giants in. I'm gonna do the despicable alternative, and I'm gonna throw in the Los Angeles Dodgers, a team that I hate the most in this entire world. The Dodgers. I will put them on my list of National League favorites. Obviously, they're everybody's favorites. This is not a hot take. This is just me being realistic. And I hate to say it, but this team is nasty. They are second in team average. All right, their ERA is in top 5 in the league. And you lead the league in RBIs and hits. I mean, you got the nastiest top 3 in the league behind Betts, Ohtani, and Freeman. And then you got Teoscar Hernandez. Teoscar Hernandez obviously tearing the cover off the ball unexpectedly. Unfortunately, you got Muncy on the IL right now, but when he comes back, he's starting to kind of get his stride with some power. I mean, this team is really ready to go. I mean, the pitching is there, the hitting is there, the fans are loving it. Shohei Ohtani is showing what he can do with a bat in his hand when all he focuses on is hitting and not pitching. Like, the dude's nasty. Like, you would never know in a million years this guy's got drama in the back end of his, in the back end of his mind going on, because this dude is just putting up unreal numbers. And then for the second team, I got the Braves. Yes, they're second in the NL East, and yes, they're behind the Red Hot Phillies right now, and yes, Strider is out for the season. I could say all these things to go against the Braves, but here's what I can say. Consistency. The Atlanta Braves over the last few seasons are one of the most consistent teams in baseball as far as winning goes. And one thing that's really hard to be consistent is eliminating a team in the playoffs. And I don't think the Phillies can eliminate the Braves for 3 consecutive years come playoff time. I think this is the year the Braves finally push past that Philadelphia railroad that's kind of been like halting their playoff push every single year. I said this seems to be, like I said, the Braves aren't even operating at 100% offensively. Acuna is not even producing Acuna type of numbers yet. I mean, this team is scary. They're still second in the division with nobody else in the division interested in playing baseball. So I think the Braves and the Phillies are kind of looking at each other like, hey, let's just make our way to the playoffs, then we'll find out who's better then. And I think it's going to be the Braves this year. Hack, what do you got for me as far as my picks for the National League World Series favorites right now?
I mean, you can't argue with those teams. To argue with that is just hate. The stats don't lie. They're 2 elite teams. I just think for me, and the last couple years of the postseason, you have to show me now. I have to see you win, and it's different, but it's like it's different because these teams are so much better than the team I'm going to say this. Like how we came into the year with Toronto. You have all this promise, and for the last couple of years, we've heard about you're going to break, not so now Toronto, but these two teams, you're going to break the wins records. And how many wins can they get just for first round, second round for them because they get buys, but first round losses. And not only losses, but bad losses, you know? So all the talent in the world, but I want to see them do it in the postseason. And I think their fans are that way too, because they've done too much. They've consistently been great and lacked in the postseason, which is crazy. When I
Absolutely.
made this argument to Petey, he reminded me how many, like, it's not far off since they've both been world champions. It's just their recent playoff failure has left such a stink in most casual to baseball watchers, like people that watch the postseason, that you forget their World Series is because of the bad beats they've had in the last 2 years.
That's absolutely how I feel about it as well. Like I said, that team is just constantly year in, year out good. Chris Sale is really starting to kind of become Chris Sale again, really stepping up in the rotation with the absence of Strider. Some other big names, some other names that you weren't expecting, kind of really stepping up with the lack of offense from Acuna. Obviously, Acuna still having a good season, but as far as Acuna is used to doing, he's having kind of a downward year. And like I said, once the weather heats up, that's when these guys get good. I mean, that's when these guys are at their best. So the best baseball is yet to come for every team, and I'm excited. Once this weather gets warm, we'll go hit up some games in Seattle, maybe go down to San Francisco, check out some games live. But I'm excited for some nicer weather coming around the corner, and for these teams to really get into the meat of their schedule and kind of let the contenders show who they really are. Let me see. Next up, we got. I don't even remember what's next, to be honest with you. Oh, yes, my favorite. 3 up, 3 down. This is where Hack and I talk about our 3 teams on the rise and 3 teams on the drop. On the drop, on the fall. I don't even know. I kind of just don't even think about it. Just whatever comes out, comes out. But this week, we are going to start with 3 teams that are kind of on the down and out right now. Some teams we've talked about recently on our up list. But this week, they are kind of heading the wrong direction. And first up, Hack, we got a team that you are a closet fan of, the Oakland A's. They've gone 1-9 in their last 10 games, lost 8 in a row. Their team has struck out 77 times in the last 7 games. What's going on in Oakland? Hack, you there? Oh, looks like I may have lost Hack for a quick second. That is all right. But as far as the A's go, like I said, they are 5th in the league in home runs right now, but they've only hit 5 in the last week. And their team ERA is over 5. That's not going to spell a lot of wins for Oakland. And they were on such a tear recently. Obviously, they're already on a trajectory taking them over their season total of wins from last season, which is obviously something good to talk about. Yes, as far as PD say, the A's do stink, and yes, they are a terrible team. But like I said, they have some really nice pieces. So coming up here for the trade deadline, I'm excited to see which of those pieces do get moved to contenders, and kind of what they're able to build in their farm system. Another team though that's kind of on down and out right now is going to be the Minnesota Twins. Just recently, they were on an over a 10-game win streak, but currently this week they're 3-7 in their last 10. They're losers of 6 games in a row, and their team is only batting a miserable 176 on the season. Or sorry, on the week for team batting average. Like I said, the Twins have not had a sharp week. Their pitching has been fantastic, but their offense has just not been able to get anything going. So hopefully they're able to turn that around as they've fallen from 2nd to 3rd in the Central Division, behind 5.5 games behind Cleveland for the division lead. And then we got a team we haven't really talked about at all really this season, and that's the Washington Nationals. No one really expected the Nationals to be great. They have been a decent team. They've beaten some teams in spots they shouldn't have. They've got a few injuries that are affecting their starting rotation, but lately they've just been playing absolutely abysmal, only batting 192 as a team, and they are 2-8 in their last 10, and losers of 5 in a row. Hack, are you back with me yet? All right, looks like we're still having a couple technical difficulties. Not a big deal. I appreciate everyone kind of chilling with me while we kind of move on through the list. But next up, we have our three
There we
teams.
go.
Hack, are you back? Hey, my
Yes,
man.
I
All right.
am.
Well, hey.
Give me seconds real quick. A's cold streak started with all that Mason Miller trade talk. It's a shame that they sabotaged this. It's a shame they sabotaged season, and I think they're happy to be losing because that's what the owner wants. Minnesota Twins are coming back to reality. I don't know how they did that, using Royce Lewis's bat and not. But that offense is abysmal. And Washington, just hope C can get out of there because he's a star. I love watching that kid. But they really have few and far bright spots on that World Series and had all those young, good stars.
Yeah, I mean the Nationals are not far from the World Series success. Obviously, Strasburg with injuries, Harper being traded. I mean, Harper wasn't on that World Series team, but like I'm talking about the young talent that the Nationals had, and the fact that they are where they are now is very surprising. Hopefully, C.J. Abrams is on somebody's trade list. I would actually love to see the Dodgers get Mookie out of shortstop. Like if I'm playing devil's advocate, if I'm the Dodgers, I'm seeing what it's going to cost to get C.J. Abrams to L.A. and get Mookie out of shortstop and somewhere where he's better helping the team. Is that crazy to think? Is that crazy to say out loud?
That would be. I mean, it's not because the national. When you see what Miami took for Ariza, I'm intrigued to see what it takes to get. Because Abrams, although he is a great young player, because the stats are mediocre. It's just he could be better in a better situation. So can they trade him for what he's projected to be? Or do they end up getting something closer to what he is right now?
Yeah, because you think about it, if Abrams were to go to the Dodgers, for example, he wouldn't have to have the burden of being the leadoff hitter. They got Betts already there. So he'd be able to kind of settle down in that 6-7 hole and really be able to kind of eat in the back end and kind of help that back end of the lineup that's kind of been struggling, really turn that lineup over to get to Mookie and Shohei and Freeman. Just kind of a crazy thing that went into my head. I just want to throw it out in the universe, see what you thought. But that would be a crazy trade deadline move. All right. Well, we're going to keep this list going. Only got a little bit of time left. We got 3 teams to talk about that are really kind of making strides in this part of the season. 2 of them we've kind of talked about heavily in this episode, but this team is a team that no one really talks about right now, and that's the Miami Marlins. They did lose today, but before today, they had a 4-game win streak heading into today. It's always weird to me when a team like the Marlins trade their best player away, and then they go on a run. Like it's almost like a bonding moment for the guys that are left. It's like, you know what, they're basically selling off all the pieces for spare parts, and they're seeing what they can get. Like it's almost like the guys in the locker room are like, we can still do this. Like it's good to see a team kind of rally around and go on a little bit of a run. Hack, what do you think about the Marlins right now?
I think the Marlins are similar to the 3rd team we had on our list last week, the Rockies. And it's good to have a week where you look competent, especially after trading Ariza. You kind of need it this week. I mean, and just me personally, I've trashed them about trading your best player for June 1st. That's a loser move. And then you came out and won games. So it's good to kind of, for the week, see what everybody says we are. I just don't know if this momentum can carry them past, because it's not like they're going to add talent to this hot streak. All they're doing is player to get traded.
Yeah, the season's over for Marlin fans. The ownership is already looking into the future, kind of discounting this season already. The fans aren't showing up to the games. Uh, as far as the Marlins go, though, do you think Jazz Chisholm, as big of a name as he is for the Marlins organization and the fan base, is he their truly one and only untouchable, or do you think even he's able to be gotten from a contender?
I think that he's very gettable. I I think it's I have not forgotten about the interviews he gave in the beginning of the season about the lack of leadership and how he felt held down and not able to be the leader. Almost to the point where I feel like Miami has given him the team and this is what you're leading. Now, you could say that they didn't help him with the trade of Ariza, but your stats have not really your game did not keep Ariza in town. And sometimes people yell, I'm a star, but you're not a star. You're going to be a very good complementary piece to one of these top teams, but he's not enough to put Miami over the hump. So I think similar to a Robert in Chicago, get what you can get for him because you can't win with him, at least not in Miami.
I wouldn't mind seeing the Giants go after him to kind of replace Jung Ho Lee for the season. Obviously, Luis Matos has done a fantastic job filling in, but I think as a Giants fan, I wouldn't mind seeing Jazz come on over to the Bay. But yeah, no, like I said, that's why Hack. I want to say I'm so glad you came up with this segment to talk about the three best and worst teams from the week, just so we can talk about teams like the Marlins because they're never getting talked about as far as contention or statistical categories or wins and losses. Well, a lot of losses, not so much wins. But this week they have had a lot of success. Like I said, rattling off a 4-game win streak. So hopefully maybe Miami is able to put something together. And then maybe they'll show up on this list again later in the season. They said they have the talent to do it, especially in their starting rotation. Hopefully, once they get healthy, maybe they're able to put some runs together. Anything else about the Marlins before we move on to the next team on our list?
These are the teams that actually change baseball because at the trade deadline, the Marlins are going to be a team that ships out a Jazz Chisholm, maybe a Jake Burger. And some of these names aren't names that at the moment we'll be like, oh my gosh, that's the move. But then Jake Burger hits a pinch hit home run for the Chicago Cubs that sends them to the World Series. And yeah, these teams are good to talk about. And it's good to get acquainted with some of the players on these teams because they might come to your favorite team and help your team win. It stinks for Miami, but their loss is another team's gain. So get to know these players and find out which player suits your team well.
You sound like you're a commercial for the other MLB teams. Hi, my name is Hack. I'm a spokesperson for the Miami Marlins. Come see us. Get acquainted with our players. Maybe Jake Burger will help you win a playoff game. You know what? You should be in sales for sure. Maybe I get 10% of his contract. Who knows? But the next team kind of on the rise. We had
a couple tickets
earlier in this episode. Yeah, right behind the plate. I want people to be able to see me sweat.
Nothing too big.
But no, nothing too big. But the next the next team that we're talking about is the Houston Astros. We've talked about them a couple times in this episode already. Hack has them favored, one of the favorites for the American League to still make the World Series. Like I said, only 5 games under 500, only 4 games behind in the division. They've been killing it lately. Hack, how are the Astros doing it? I mean, are they doing it offensively? Are they doing it with their pitching? I mean, what's the difference between then and now?
I mean, it's just a mix, and I think they were down, and you said it earlier in the show. Texas and Seattle have not done their jobs. That they were down, and they should have had – I'm not going to go crazy and say like a double-digit lead, but you need it more than 4 games with the start that the Houston Astros have had. You need it to be up in the 7-8, and almost, even though it's early, mentally put them in the wild card state of mind where they're searching out the Royals and like what those sort of teams, the loser of the Yankees Orioles are doing. And they're not looking at the wild card. They're looking at the division like, here we are. Man, we were that bad, and 4 games is what separates us. As much, it's going to be scary when they heat up. And I think the heat up, they're in the midst of it. And if 2 more weeks, we're going to be talking about the AL West leading Houston Astros.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get how you can have a losing record and be, well, they were bottom of the division, but now they're leading the league in batting average, which is not an easy statistic to lead. In. They're finally winning at home. They started off the season like 0-6 at home after doing terribly in the playoffs last season. Now they're finally winning at home. They're back to a 500 record at their stadium, 13-13. And I think that's honestly been the big difference. Is they're finding ways to finally win at home again. The fans are excited. The young players are really starting to kind of bring it together. Kyle Tucker is finally putting the ball out of the park. 13 home runs on the season. Altuve is being Altuve. I mean, besides the Ronel Blanco issue, I mean, this team has really kind of had nothing but good things happen for them the last week or so. And again, I think even the Ronel Blanco thing is going to bring the team together. So, I mean, Houston Astros, team to watch. Let's see, who do they even have coming up this week? Like I said, they're only 4 games back, and this week they play the Angels, They play the Angels and the Athletics this week. That could be another 5 or 6 wins right there. I mean, by this time next week, they could be the division leaders if you really think about it. Because after the Athletics, they play the Mariners.
And the Mariners can't score with the Astros. As good as their pitching is, they can't hit. And the Astros hit good pitching.
Yeah, they really do. I mean, they've been so deep into playoffs for so many years in a row. Like, your best pitcher's best day, they've seen that. They've seen that multiple times for years now. But no, I mean, this is honestly the best time for them to be heating up. Like I said, they just beat the Brewers today. They got the Angels, Athletics, and Mariners coming up. That could be 7 to 9 wins. That could put them in the division lead if Texas does not heat up. So this is a team we're going to be talking about for a while. They're here to stay. And the last team we want to talk about, and
just
this
one
is a
last
team
thing
that,
about them.
Oh yeah,
this
yeah.
is the
Go
difference
for it.
between like winners and losers. Houston's GM got asked, "Are you going to be sellers at the trade line 2 weeks ago when they were in the midst of their free fall?" And he laughed at the notion that the Houston Astros would be sellers in any year, and especially this year.
Yeah,
with the names they have, and then you have because they have pros that they would never.
Yeah, I mean, I like having a GM that's confident in my team. I mean, he, as much success as he's had, he has every reason to be cocky. He has every reason. Like Robert Kraft, when the Patriots were on their tear, he had every right to be as cocky and say as much confident stuff as he wanted to, because guess what? His team showed it on the field, and they put up and they shut up. And the Astros are like that in the baseball world, where they're able to really kind of put their money where their mouth is. So. And he understands that this is not a, must win and get in situation. This is a long marathon, and we're only like a third of the way through. So everyone can calm down. We're going to be making this team better. We're already the best team in baseball. We just got to play like it. I mean, that's what he's saying, and honestly, that's what you want to hear as a player. And since he said that, what have they been doing? They've been winning. But we got one more team to talk about, and this is a team that we absolutely hate talking about this team. I promise you, as baseball fans and analysts, the Yankees are a team we all like to have fail. But we just can't say enough good things about them this year. They really, honestly, they got the right piece in free agency, or great pieces in free agency. The bullpen is showing out. The starting rotation is pitching well. They're leading the league in almost every statistical category that matters. Do you think the Yankees? I mean, Do the Yankees falter at all, or what is the weakness that the Yankees have that can stop them from being a tear that they are this season?
Pitchers' age, injuries. Stroman, Rodon, and Cortez could all get injured, but you could say that about every team. It's just I think it's a higher rate there. I think Soto is going to be Soto, and if Judge can stay healthy, but again, the Judge Stanton combo hasn't really stayed healthy. But these are all things that I'm going to go the other devil's advocate that are old issues. Like this year, the Yankees look back, so I'm not going to live in the past for these players. I'm going to project forward and say they're going to be fine. And Saturday, Garrett Cole threw a 40-pitch bullpen session, which in baseball, the Yankees are saying that's the equivalent of 2 innings for him. Early this week coming up, he's going to throw to live batters. So any faltering that's coming is rectifiable when you're going to be able to put one of the 5 best pitchers on earth today on the mound every 5th day. I guess I could say I was looking at the Yankees when we were going. I picked them for one of the World Series favorites. Gleyber Torres has been a bad year. So second base, they could address that. But if I believe the Yankees are back, that's a problem that's going to get addressed at the trade deadline.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's
So
one thing about the Yankees. No, go. Keep going. You're on a roll.
Every little counterpoint we can have for the Yankees faltering. Well, the whole show we've said, at least I've said it, and I think you've said it a couple times with me, the evil empire is back. When the evil empire falters, it fixes its faltering mistake. So I can't spend the last hour telling you the Yankees were back and then act like they're gonna regress when it comes time to plug the holes. Nah, they're gonna plug the holes.
Yeah, I mean, I right now the Yankees are for my eyes, the team to beat. Then you said besides the Phillies are the only team to outscore their opponents by more. So they've won 7 in a row. They're 8-2 over their last 10. Baltimore kind of made that push for the division lead, and they were like, "Nah, I don't think so, little brother. Get back in second where you belong." The thing that worries me about the Yankees is just the health. Like I said, Aaron Judge, he's playing every day. He's starting to heat up, playing center field. That's not easy on the body. Juan Carlos Stanton, he's obviously getting up there in age. He's had some issues with striking out and also injuries as well. I just really want to see them stay healthy because without them two, I don't think Juan Soto can do it on his own. So I need them. The Yankees fans need those two to stay healthy to kind of make that push for the playoffs and really make that push for really a World Series, which is what Yankees fans are saying is this season is World Series or bust. And really, with the way the Yankees are playing, I'm not going to disagree with them. Anything else about the Yankees before we kind of bounce into players of the week?
This is similar to me to when Betts went to the Dodgers. Soto going to the Yankees. I think he's making them remember how to win. And that doesn't always show up on a stat sheet. But Betts went to the Dodgers and brought them the title, brought back, the Dodger way. I think Soto going to the Yankees so far looks like he brought back the Yankee swagger to New York.
I would definitely agree with you on that one. And I think that he's happy there. I think he signs a long-term extension, something that the Nationals, another star the Nationals had, by the way, something the Nationals couldn't lock him down to. I think the Yankees will get him to do that. The way the fans have treated him and received him, the way that his teammates have received him, and the impact he's had, I think he's going to sign there long term. So the Yankees are going to be a team to deal with for a while, for the foreseeable future. But we're going to end this episode like we always do with our players of the week. We're going to start off with, of course, who's first? Our relief pitcher of the week. We like to give those relief pitchers and guys in the bullpen some love. Mr. Josh Hader. This morning, Hack and I were texting. I was like, Hack, I don't know who I can pick this week for a relief pitcher of the week, and he instantly, with no hesitation, said Josh Hader. I looked over his numbers, and I definitely see why. 2 saves, 1 win, 4 innings pitched, 6 strikeouts over those 4 innings pitched. A huge reason why the Astros are in that push, in that push for the Western Division lead. Hack, how was Josh Hader's week this week? Hack, you there? You with me? All right. That's okay. We're going to keep this show rolling. We're almost done with the episode. I appreciate everybody hanging in there with us. Yeah, Josh Hader this week absolutely killed it for the Astros in the back end of the bullpen. Like I said, got the W one game this week, as well as 2 saves, 6 strikeouts over 4 innings, no walks, no hits allowed. Had a fantastic week. Hack, are you back?
Dominant. Yeah, I'm sorry.
All
I keep
right.
going in and out. I don't know what's going on tonight.
No, man,
But
this is
Hader
live
had
TV,
one heck.
man. Oh, this is live. It's okay.
A heck of a week. I know I'm glitching like the Braves offense tonight. But Hader, a heck of a week. This is why they signed him from San Diego. You're seeing what all that money was for.
Yeah, I mean, they had to shore up
And
that
what
back
they're-
end of the bullpen, and he's showing them why.
This is what's going to win them games in the postseason. So I love it. I think this was the first time in a while we've seen Hader look like Hader.
Well, I'm not going to be a hater on that. Hey, I wish I had like the butt up sound effects. I would do that.
We can work on that.
We'll work on it. But continuing on with this list, like I said, we're already over time, so we're going to get through this quickly. We do have a couple more players to talk about, and next up is going to be our pitcher of the week. Hack, I'm going to let you speak about him because you're the Philadelphia fan. How great of a week did Aaron Nola have?
Oh, I go.
What was that?
A definite
All right,
conspiracy because I'm trying to talk scenes.
Yeah, I know it is, but Aaron Nola had a fantastic week. Complete game shutout of the New York Mets, only allowing 4 hits, 8 strikeouts over those 9 innings. He looked absolutely dominant. He pitched again today. Did allow a couple runs across the plate, but he had a strong outing with 5 strikeouts to add to today, over 7 innings. Aaron Nola looking like he's earning his paycheck this season, yeah?
Yeah, this was a definite great bounce back start because he had a rough start earlier. I think the start before this did not go so hot for him. He as good of a season as he's having. He's been like overshadowed by Ranger and Wheeler. And this start, he came back and was like, "Look at me, look and let people remember." He looked good today, not as dominant as he did in this start, but that was a heck of a start, a heck of a game out of him.
I mean, yeah, last 2 games he's gone 16 innings. He's definitely getting his inning-eating ways back underneath him. So that's obviously a good sign for Phillies fans. Obviously, they've been on a tear. To see Nola putting up numbers like this, that's something to be excited about.
And to show I'm not a homer, as good as Nola has pitched, right now the Padres are beating the Braves 6 or 8-0. Yu Darvish has just gone into his 24th consecutive scoreless inning. So as much as I'm loving on some Aaron Nola this week, I'd be remiss to not mention Yu Darvish and the hot streak that he has been on. And this is the Braves that he's shutting down. So this is real competition. And I believe the other team was the Dodgers. So he's on one heck of a pitching streak for Darvish this last couple weeks.
Yeah, he did shut out the Dodgers. I think they won 5-0 in that game, and he is absolutely pitching lights out tonight against the Braves. Yu Darvish is really having a resurgence this year. Obviously, he had a downward trend last season. I wasn't quite sure if he was going to be, one of the top 2 starters for the Padres this season. He's really kind of showed out this year, really kind of showing what Yu Darvish can do. But without getting too distracted by Yu Darvish, because next week we're probably going to make sure we have some time to talk about him, especially if he keeps on that disgusting streak of scoreless innings pitched. One more player to talk about. This is not a household name. He's only played 7 games this season. But when Jung-Ho Lee went down for the Giants, they had to replace him in center field. They called up my man Luis Matos. This week alone, he's got batting .425. He has 2 home runs. And he has 16 RBIs in a week. people. That's like 6 games. This dude's got 16 RBIs, almost averaging 3 RBIs a game. He had 6 RBIs just 2 nights ago in a game. This dude is absolutely making the most of his time up in the big leagues. He's currently batting .333 on the season, playing in his 7th game today. He had an 0 for 4 day, which obviously dropped his batting average tremendously. But 16 RBIs in a week? Heck, have you ever seen – like, have you ever seen a crazier first week for a player? Like, that's insane.
Crazy week. It wasn't for the injury. So, young man showing up and showing out. You better week. 16 RBIs, like, words don't do justice for the week he's had.
Yeah, I mean, he put up 6 RBIs 2 nights ago against the Rockies, but 6 RBIs in a professional baseball game. That's nothing to bat your eyelashes at. And I think that he's honestly making a name for himself, and I think he's going to be a name that we're going to see in the lineup from this point on, at least for the rest of the season, until Jung-Ho Lee comes back next year. And then that's a problem we can fix next year, especially with Yastrzemski kind of getting older. This may be our new right fielder. I mean, who knows? I mean, this guy's, if he keeps putting up these kind of numbers, we got to find a spot for him up with the big team. All right. We have said what we've had to say. We've shown what we needed to show you. We've kind of updated you on the week. We've gone over stats, highlights. We've gone over big games, big news, injuries. We appreciate you guys kind of tuning in, hanging out with us on this Sunday evening. We would do this every Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Heck, do you got anything you want to say to the people before we let them get on with their evening and we get on with ours? He looks like he's thinking about it. I don't think he's there. Oh, there he is. Heck, what do you have to say to the people before we let him go?
I'm pretty sure Paul Skeens is starting on Thursday, so enjoy Thursday on Skeens Day.
This dude, man, you got well. I wasn't expecting that. But hey, I think I might be winning in fantasy. Hold on a second. I think I might have pulled, just for y'all to know, Hack and I are in a fantasy baseball league. I am down by 7 runs with Fernando Tatis still to go. Or still playing. Dang, I was down by like 62.
Just so that you people know, Aroldis Chapman scored points today on Black's bench. So he would be 0 points down. But benched
God,
Chapman
he did.
And started a guy not playing today.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
He's straight up
fuck
on my bench. That is terrible management on my part. Whew, well, I guess 0-8 it is. All right, folks. Well, I thank you for joining in. Next week, we're probably going to have some more fun topics to talk about. I'm going to go cry myself to sleep. You guys have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next Sunday.